Good morning, and I would like to welcome you to this first webinar on our series of 4 on the Why Academia series. Can we just start with some house rules? The people that's logged in, just indicate in the chat room. Somebody from IFACorp will be monitoring that if you cannot hear me, or if the sound is unclear, just indicate that, please. If you connectivity is not that good, please also put your own videos off, and can I ask all of you to mute so that we just make sure we don't have any background noise. Please make use of the chat room as we go along. Somebody, as I said, will be monitoring that, and we can address the questions at the end. Except if you've got a pressing question, feel more than free to ask it as we go along. You can just raise your hand and we will unmute you and you can ask your question. We will also record this series, and you are welcome to get a copy of the series at the end of this webinar. Our marketing department will be sending that out and also communicating with regards to contact details and other information that you may need. Okay, so let me just start to say very welcome. Today we're going to look at the user experience on Why Academia. This is the first of the 4 series. Then on the 12th of August, we're going to look at the customization and integration available in the system. On the 19th, the technology and hosting. And on the 26th, how cost efficient and effective is the academia system. So let me introduce you. My name is Hanlie Spangenberg. I am the General Manager for the Student Information Systems at IFACorp, of which the academia system is one of the systems. I also have other colleagues, and as we speak, I will introduce them as they will all have somewhere in this presentation have a chance to speak, and then I will introduce you to those colleagues also. I think for clarity, for time space, we're not going to go into a big introduction on everybody. I'm also not going to do a big introduction on the company, because the idea of this is that you must be interested enough to ask for a more detailed discussion and demonstration on the system, and of course more detail on the company. And I think we will, Danzel, if you can just look at the waiting room, please. And I will think we will do it in that way. I'm going to very briefly go over the company overview, and then let me just admit the people that I see in the waiting room. Just give me 1 second, please. I just want to make sure that everybody that wants to enter can enter. Okay, so on IFACorp, for those of you that has not attended any of our webinars before and that is not a client of our company, IFACorp is a 20-plus-year-old company, serving a lot of students, serving a lot of institutions, serving a lot of academic and administrative personnel in universities and colleges and the school sector. And all the countries in purple you can see is where we presently do business. We have offices in South Africa, which is our base, in Cape Town and in Johannesburg. And from there, we also service a lot of the African clients. And then we have an office in the UAE, from where we will also be serving some of the African clients as well as the UAE and Middle East business. So that is our spread and where we operate from. We as a company have a set of best-of-breed products that manages the student experience. And we're going to talk about experience versus the life cycle a bit also today in the feedback. But so we do not only manage the life cycle of the students, we have software that manages the total experience of the student. And the institutions, you usually have your students and your academic and administrative personnel that needs to be managed. We have products and services in IFACorp that manages this. And if I can just very briefly touch on some of them, Digicamba, which is our total LMS offering, so the implementation, the hosting, the training, content development, courses, everything around learner management systems and various learner management systems is done in our Digicamba division. Then we have Turnitin, which is our plagiarism detection software, which is very widely used in South Africa. All public universities uses that and very widely used in the world also. As part of this cycle to manage your students and be able to communicate with students, We have a MonoLabs, which is a mobile platform or framework that you as an institution can use to design your own apps. So without coding and a lot of technical knowledge, the institutions can design their own apps, which is posted to the Android and the Apple stores, and the students and the parents and the alumni and prospective students, they can all download these apps, a very effective way to communicate with any of the stakeholders in your institution. And then lastly, of course, and where we're going to focus on today, and all the people from IFACOP that's in the call, this is their love, this is their baby, the academia system. And we have such a strong affinity to what we can do with this system in the institutions. And we're going to focus on the student, administration and finances in the system in total, but today specifically on what is the user experience that we bring to the table with this system. IFACOP also then has things like Brainwave, which is our change management division, and with any of the student information system implementations, we strongly believe that change management is an important part to make sure that your institution is ready and there's an uptake and a user experience or a user excitement for this product that is coming, and that the users is taken along on this journey. And that is why we see change management as such an important part. And then we have a host of technical services that just joins in all of this. And this grouping of best-of-breed products takes the student from when they first inquire until they graduate. And we manage this with the different sections of software. Okay, so that is just in general. I think let's get to the academia system, where we know the base of what we want to do today, where we know that that is going to be talked about. Okay, so academia in very layman terms, but also trying to be effective, is a robust, feature-rich, analytics-equipped, user-friendly system. And it's built on cutting-edge and flexible architecture. So that is, if somebody asks you to summarize what does the system bring to the table, but then it also has highlights like it's a unified, it gives you unified structures, it's a comprehensive system that allows you to incorporate all the different divisions and departments. There's a mobile app of which we will speak today. It's cloud enabled, it's highly configurable, multi-center capabilities. This is a very important factor, because not many of the systems is multi-campus as well as multi-company enabled, and that is what academia is. So what can you do in academia? Firstly, academia manages the total life cycle of the students. It's starting off with campaigns and inquiries, the admission processes, of course registration is part of that, the total management, the residence management, academic management. I'm not going to go and read through all of them, but the management of the cycle of the student up until that student graduates is done in the academia system. Of course, embedded and part of that is the student finances, and that includes the generation from the structures that you've set up, the payment of fees, and scholarship management. And this is, if we have further discussions, we can look at a lot more detail at these specific components. Then, very important in the system is the communication, because you can have all this beautiful data, but if you can't communicate that and if you can't report on that, it's just data that lies there. So academia is very strong on the communication part. Firstly, managing that with the portals, and we're going to look at the portals a bit today, and then also with our CRM that's embedded for messaging and notification in a very easy way directly from the system. Reports on demand, the customization, generation of reports, very strong focus on dashboards that gives you customized look and feel of the data that you as the individual wants to monitor. And then of course statistics, consolidated, concise data in one view. This all is supported by the structures that's set up in the system, your own structures, your own rules, and administering the system with user access to make sure that anybody they can all just do that, what they need to do. Very strong logging of data, logging of actions for auditing purposes. And then there's a grouping of common services, which include things like front desk management, your travel from the students, buses that you need to manage, I forgot that one, buses that you can monitor and structure the routes that they want to take, managing the mail that comes into the company, a whole group of other general components that you can also do in the system. Embedded in this is also a component of human resource management, not the payroll part, but managing the personnel on the academia side. That is very quickly, because I don't want to spend too much time on that, and I'm conscious of not going over the time, but that is what the academia system does in general. So the focus for now is what can we bring to the table for you and your institution users on an end user level, as well as the rest of the people that needs to use the system, because anytime that end user level is just seen as the data capturers, but it goes far beyond that. So I want to go back a bit. Originally, everybody spoke about user interface, and everybody was very impressed if you can have a system that's got a good user interface. That was enough, and that was one of the criteria that you looked at. Now, the user interface, that is the front-end application view that the user interacts with. So the look and feel, what does it look like? Now, Steve Jobs, he was the founder of this concept of a user interface very long ago. Some of you may not have been born by then even. And he started with GUI, the graphical user interface, and the mouse. And that was then very important for you to look at those components when you look at a system. But we have moved on far beyond that. So your criteria when you look at the system cannot be what is the user interface or the friendliness of the user interface, especially in this day and age where our biggest critiques of the system is the students, and they have an experience of user interfaces that is just far beyond what we sometimes even have in a university environment. So the user experience is what a system must be judged on also. There will always be a combination between these two, because once you have your user interface, now the users have got something to interact with. What is their experience? Whether it's positive or negative, that experience will determine how they feel about the system and the interaction with the system. And that is where you start to get the value of choosing the right system so that your user experience is a positive one. So the user experience provides meaningful and relevant experiences to the users. It also, you can have a lot of nice pictures and videos, but if it's not relevant to what they need to do, and it doesn't give them the support on that, they won't use that. The user experience is also what keeps the system loyal, or the users loyal to the system. Now that is very important, because as we go along, you will see that the users are not only one grouping in your university. So there's a wide variety of people that we see as users. And you want to keep these users loyal to the system that they use, because you most probably have paid a lot of money for the system, and you want to make sure that they use it, and they use it to the best of the ability of what the system can offer. The last thing is that a meaningful user experience allows you as an institution to customize the journey. So if your user experience offered by the system is good enough, it allows you to customize that journey to your users, which again, of course, will bring back to the previous 2 points of a positive user experience, and will keep the users loyal to the system that they're using. And that is why when you look at a student management system, make sure that you look at things that will, in the long run, bring meaning to the system that you have chosen for your institution. I found something very interesting that we do not always think of, but that the Nielsen Norman Group also says a user experience encompasses all aspects of the end user interaction within the company, its services, and its product. So the user interface is not only what does the student or the management or personnel or the parents or the sponsors see when they use the system. It also has to do with the total picture of what they think of you as a company, which is the university, the college, or the school, your services, and your product. So that goes much further than just the level of how nice is it to use the system. So the user experience and the user interface, there are some principles if you look at literature. And we want to make sure that when we design the academia system, we design them around these principles. So I've highlighted some of the 10 ones that's usually highlighted. Make everything the user needs readily available. Absolutely. Be consistent. Be clear. Give feedback. So yes, there's a CRM embedded where you can have a lot of feedback to the end users. Use recognition, not recall, so that the people that uses the system recognize the placement of your icons, the type of language that you use, so that they it's easy for them to use the system. Choose how the people will interact first. So we device independent, that's why they can choose that. Follow design standards. Elemental hierarchy matters. So yes, it's a very strict hierarchy where you can set up your structures and make sure that you maintain your own institution hierarchy. Keep things simple. Don't try and wow the user with things that's not necessary because just the look and feel looks better, but keep it simple and effective. And give your users the control. Make sure that your users have the control over things in the system. So those are just 10 things that's usually mentioned. And I mean, we can with ease say that the academia system ticks all these boxes. So once you start to look at the system, be aware of the things that's in the market necessary or asked for to evaluate your system. Okay, and I think with that, let me start to go back to the system so that you can actually see, because you do not want to, in your institution to have this guy that's not happy. You want the people to be satisfied with the system that they use. And the question is, who must be satisfied with the system? And that is your stakeholders. We're going to look at different stakeholders, but they are the people that must be satisfied with the system that you offer to them on all user levels. I want to start off by asking Denzel Jones, who is our senior project manager and also a student information system expert in i4Corp, on what is the effect of not satisfied or not good user interface or user experience at the institution. You've done many projects at many of the institutions in South Africa and Africa. What was your experience on that, Denzel?
Sorry, Andy, you just broke off there. Can you just repeat that for me, please?
Denzel, I cannot hear you. I'm not sure if the others can hear you, but I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
I can't hear Denzel. Let me just see the chat. Can anybody, can you hear Denzel? Okay. Just my, Denzel, please continue. I think it may be my,
just hold on.
Can you hear me? You can continue. I'll set up mine. I'll check mine. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? No. Okay, can you just repeat that portion because you broke off, please? Or Romano, if you can repeat on this, she can't hear me.
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with our sound this morning. I cannot hear Denzel. Denzel, if you can, let me just see if you can hear me.
Good morning, Romano, yeah.
Hi, Romano, can you just repeat the question from Hanli because she was breaking off?
Yes, she was. So I'm also just waiting for the repeat of that.
Okay, I'm sorry for the lack in communication here. I can hear you very, very vaguely, but let me ask again. So what is the effect of a bad user experience or a bad interface in a student management system when it is implemented at the institution, especially on the stakeholders? So what negative things comes from that?
The worst that can happen at any institution is the usage of the system. So it's important for institutions that as you go through your implementation phase to actually monitor the readiness and acceptance of users whilst implementing the system. If users don't really use the system, it'll basically mean that the output or reporting that you get from the system would not be of much value. The plus side of the academia system is that it's very user-friendly. So the users, it's easy for people to use. You don't really have to have too much training to understand it. It is also helpful that the user interface or the user interaction from the academia system don't require you to know the system in depth to be able to generate information that you need. Also, the reporting functionality, because of the built-in GESPA reporting software, it makes the reports that comes out from the academia system just so much more user-friendly that it enable senior managers to actually make appropriate decisions in their decision-making process. And that, in a nutshell, is basically what would be beneficial for the institution, taking into consideration that academia is extremely user-friendly in comparison with other SISs that you get out there.
Thank you, Denzel.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that was my settings. I can hear you much clearer now. My settings were not that well done. If you have questions as we go along, please, Romano and Denzel is online, and please feel free to ask them also, as they have done many of these projects in institutions. Okay, so let's look at, if you want to look at why academia, the stakeholders that must be kept happy. So what is the user experience that academia brings to top and middle management? Well, firstly, we make use of graphic views of data as well as consolidated, concise data for management purposes, so that it's easy for management to monitor data. So this is one of many examples. This is one on the financials of the student. And you can see in one view, the invoices, the academic fees. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse, but the invoices, the academic fees, other fees going on to that until your total outstanding amount. It also shows you that data in a graph format and different types of graphs. And if you go on, you can have the same type of information, just structured in a different way again. Total invoices, total outstanding, settled receipt, unsettled receipt, total collections. So that is a very effective way to show your top and middle management the data that you've entered in the system without them having to interrogate and know how to interrogate the data on a detailed level. There's also dashboards for management, where management can very easily see data that they want to monitor on a regular basis. So for example, this person wants to monitor student admissions. That can be monitored on a daily basis by simply looking at when they log in at the dashboard, per faculty, drill downs to the detail. So if you go to admissions, it shows you the detail on that admissions, financial data inquiries, whatever data you as a middle management manager wants to follow up and monitor on a regular basis. These management dashboards, as all other dashboards, can be customized specifically for you as an individual to show you the type of data that you specifically want to monitor. And it is not just a free for everybody must take the same information. So everybody that focuses on a specific division will have a different view of the data that they want to monitor. Then also on management level, the exporting of reports. Many times management can draw a report and they see this is very interesting, this is the data I want to use, but what happens next? And there the academia system makes it so easy for you to simply use the buttons available and download the data in different formats. So Excel, PDF, whatever format you want to use, download the data in that format. This allows management to have control over the data because very rarely they will be the ones entering the data. But it does allow them to have control over the view and the usage of that data without them knowing the inside structure of the system that well and making it easy for them to get to that data. Since this is all web enabled, they also can use a web session and they go to the data. The portals or the dashboards makes it even easier because they log directly into their own portal and they can view their dashboards, making it very easy for management to be part of this experience of the data that you offer. Then, of course, your most difficult stakeholder in an institution is your students. And they are sometimes the most difficult people also to satisfy. So what can we do to satisfy these students? Because we all know the students, they started off with a journey of, let's take the application process or the registration process, standing in long queues. Then we thought things are proceeding. We had laboratories, moving on to sitting at home in front of the computer, and now using your phone or any device to log into the system. And that is exactly the user experience that academia brings to the students. We customize the processes to fit what you as an institution wants to do with it. Let's take applications. So your application process will be customized in an online application where you can follow the process that is relevant to you as an institution for your students to apply. This is not a fixed standard format where you have to adjust your process to the format. We customize the format and we customize the look and feel to fit what your process wants to reflect or how you want your process to be. Then for students, there's a student portal allowing them to monitor all the information and the data that is relevant and important to them. So in this example, you can see they can see their attendance. Now, in some countries where attendance is a factor that influences their funding that they receive from government, it's important for them to monitor their own attendance. They can see their calendars and it goes on any notifications that were sent to them, marks. You can also see on the left-hand side of this, the students can view their own academics, their fees, and of course they can pay their fees then online, their placements, requests going on. So the whole grouping of functionality that you want to deploy to the student to make sure that they can have their own experience as part of the institution. And of course that takes away admin resources from the institution side. Also, very important, device independent, so the student can literally, just as anybody else that uses the system, use any device to reach the system and to do actions on the system. So the student can take their smartphone to register, they can take a tablet or they can take a laptop to register. Enhanced to that, we also have an academia-specific app for students that allows students easy query functionality on the academia app. So this is just an example of things like they can see the timetable, a very powerful platform to communicate with regards to events that is happening and make sure that the students are kept up to date with these events, fees, assignments, different detail on the assignments. That's all data that you can also put on the app, which is not a separate cost or action. It is part of the deployment of the academia system and comes with the academia system. Okay, so then hopefully your students can be happy with, they can query their own data, they can do their own actions, in an easy to use format reachable from anywhere. Then the next grouping of stakeholders that must be kept happy is, of course, your academic personnel. So what can we do with the academic personnel? Now, there, the academia system is of such a wonderful tool to the lecturers and the faculties with a mobile responsive portal, which just allows them to use their mobile phones and do most of the actions that is needed to be done by, let's call this Tom Clancy, a lecturing staff, to manage his assignments, his students, attendance, the marks, a very easy and powerful way to for the lecturer to use that. Along with this student mobile responsive portal, there's also a lecturer portal that can be used with powerful actions like the ability for the lecturer to communicate with the students. So if you take this as an example, this is the lecturer's list of courses that he or she offers. And in this one view, this lecturer can see so many things: the number of students that is registered for this course, the calendar, attendance, if there was assignments, the assignments would have shown, the scheduling of those, or the that's in your structure, marking of attendance, the marking of marks that can be entered, and then the sending of communication to your students directly from this lecturer portal. Again, this puts the control of the actions to the end user. So the lecturer has got the experience of, this is a tool that I can use to communicate with the end users, but also to monitor the students and have detail available on these students. It's a very easy, powerful way for the lecturers to communicate. Then, of course, for the lecturers, reports are important. So I've just taken one example. If you look at things like the attendance reports, because in some countries, attendance is now becoming very important. So let's look at the attendance reports. There's a listing of reports: daily attendance summary, student attendance report, pending attendance reports. And then these reports, again, can be viewed in an analytical way, where you can see per academy or per campus or per institution, per course, faculty, different parameters that you can set, and you can see the attendance, for example, for your own classes, for your lecture, but also on management level. You can view the attendance of a specific faculty, for example, in a consolidated or analytic way in this. Easy to reach, easy to view information. And then this data can come in various formats. This, for example, has to do with absentee percentage by weekdays for the last 90 days. Very difficult to consolidate that if you only have the data. Very easy to answer the questions if you already have it in a graphical view. Okay, that's just some more student distribution with absent percentages, different ways in which you can view this. So this gives the lecturer a very powerful way to interrogate data that they usually need to answer very quick questions on. So somebody asks from management, so what is the status on our absenteeism, especially in this period where it's holidays in between, and it's easy to answer. Another way of enhancing the lecturer or the academic personnel's experience is the golden record of the student, which is a single view of the total record of a student, whereby you can scroll through and on the right-hand side on my screen, different categories of information that summarizes and supplies information on this student, from personal information to the past history, to course execution, to feed detail on the student in one summarized screen. So that is in line with the principles of a CRM, easily allowing you to answer queries and give information on a specific student. And of course, the lecturer many times want that information, but since they are not the collectors of that information or the owners of that, they do not always have a way to reach that information in the system if it is spread throughout different options within the system. Okay, so now our lecturers are hopefully happy. They can view and see a lot of information. The next grouping of people that need to be satisfied is, of course, your administrative personnel, because they are many times the people that mostly captures the data in the system, and how can we keep them happy? So maybe I can ask before we start with that, Romano. Romano, in your experience of the academia system, how easy is it if you look at the administrative staff and they may want to customize or change things in the system on the screen to make it easy for them to view? How easy is it to do that in the academia system?
So Anli, thank you for that question. Yeah, with the academia, the user experience is fairly quite easy, right? Academia has easy configurable screens, as you can see on the screen right in front of you, and in many projects that we've been involved in. We'll be there like not even a month, and most of the people will be comfortable because it's as easy as clicking a button. You don't have to understand the system. You simply have to go on your dashboard, click on a few drop downs as highlighted in red on our screen, and just sort according to as you want to. If you want to see more things, you can add more columns. If you want to see less things, you just reduce your columns. And like I say, you don't need technical knowledge to do this. You yourself as a user or a first-time user, I know when I first used it, it was fairly easy. It's almost as easy as using Excel. So yeah, it's a quite easy experience, and yeah, it's not hard at all to get a hold of how to use this. Thank you.
Thank you, Romano. I appreciate that. Was Romano Domingo. He's account manager for the academic clients and has also been involved in the new implementation projects in South Africa. Okay, so let's then look at what we spoke about, the configuring of the system. If you look at the academia system from a data entry point for the administrative staff, there's so many ways which the system allows just to make the entry and the monitoring of this information so much easier. So one of those things are, again, the drill downs in the operational menus. So a personnel member that works with, let's say this is course dashboard, so working with the specific courses or specific subjects. Now, maybe I can just name that point here. The same with the configuring of the system is the configuring of the naming convention in the system. So if you use a different naming convention in your own institution, you don't use course, you use subject, or you don't use module, you use subject. When we implement the system, the naming convention as specified by your institution is the one that is implemented. So it is easy to make sure that it's your own naming convention that's in the system. Okay, so let's look at this one. Drill down functionality right through the system, making it easy for the end user to interrogate data to lower levels. Another thing is taking these fields that you see on the screen and sorting them ascending or descending. But more important, customizing this screen by taking away the fields that you do not want to view at this stage. So I can literally, this is as easy as I can click on these fields. Let's say I don't want to see schedule or number of students or module. This is unfortunately not the live system. I can click on them and it adjusts my screen immediately to the fields that I've left on the screen. That means if you only want to monitor the data in 3 or 4 fields, you change the screen for your own view to only display those 3 or 4 screens. That same principle applies now from an administrative side if you want to then print that data. So if it's a screen that usually has got a report format with 20 fields, but for this exercise, you only want to see the data for 4 of those fields. You simply click to take the fields away and you only print or export the fields that you have kept on your screen. Very easy to customize that according to the need of your own, you as an individual user. Of course, now there's some things that you can also set on a institution level, adding fields that is specific or individual to your institution, and the institution can add those fields. If you're in another country and you have specific fields, you can add them to the screen and they're immediately available. If there are fields that you don't use and it's not the type of information that you want to use, those fields can be hidden from the operational options. So easy for you to have control over these types of customizations of your screen. So we spoke about the drill downs, a very effective way to see the detail level of the information that you have displayed. Again, this data can be viewed in so many ways. Now, this is, for example, again, an administrative person that wants to monitor the applications, how many was submitted, how many was approved, how many to be rejected, what's the total admissions, a very simple set of data in the institution, but not always that easy to give feedback on where are we on a daily basis or on a weekly basis with our admissions. Now, these analytical views in the academia system makes it so easy for you to give feedback on the data and to be able to answer questions on the consolidated data for specific processes. Another thing from the back office or from the administrative level is the sending of messages. So again, it is important for us that you can communicate this information to the selected grouping of users where this information needs to be sent to. So this is an example of inquiries that has come in. I'm doing the inquiries in the institution, and now I want to send out a message to everybody to say that the inquiry process has been extended with a week, or thank you for your inquiry. If your status is this, then we will organize or come back to you with an interview, whatever you want to communicate. And the administrative people can simply click on send a message, and that message can be customized. There's templates that you can use, there's individual messages that you can send, but you do not need to go to a separate tool or a very difficult process of taking data into another tool and now sending out your messages. Because there's a CRM embedded, the sending of these messages is so easy directly from the academia system. Also, the menu structure in the system is set up in a way that it guides you, not only as an individual user on how to find my way in the system, but sometimes also how to structure a process. So this is an example of the admission menu. So if you look at the system and you log in, on the left-hand side will be your list of different options or different modules. And then for each of these modules, there's a very easy to use structure of menu options. And this one you can see set up in your settings for admissions, then your forms, funds and refunds and fees, your selection process, and then of course a lot of dashboards and reports. So easy for you to manipulate the process by looking at the structure of the menu available. Okay. I'm conscious of time. Let me just check where we are. We're still within our range. So now that we have the academic staff and the administrative staff maybe hopefully satisfied, there are two more groupings of stakeholders that usually needs to receive information from the system and that you can communicate to. One are the parents and the sponsors. And the parents and the sponsors are very easily managed by setting up a portal for them with the type of information that you want to display to them. And there you may decide, I want to show academic information, want to show things like the marks, the final marks, the test marks for the specific students that they are sponsoring. I want to show them outstanding fees. I want to communicate some other information to them. And you have a parent or a guardian or a sponsor portal, just like you have your applicant, your student, your teacher, lecturer, and all the other portals. You have that portal, you can click on that and log in, and you can easily distribute that information to those shareholders or parents. That comes as part of the system. It is not a separate thing that you have to go and design or pay for afterwards. As part of the academia system, that is embedded. The same goes for statutory or regulatory bodies. In the countries where we have existing clients, we built in all requirements for reporting as the system is deployed. And the same principle will apply for any other countries that we go into. If we've not worked in that country before, if we've not worked in that sector before, that is part of the first verification of requirements or gap analysis phase to see what reporting is needed for your type of institution. We have a relationship and we build that relationship with the regulatory bodies and we build that into the system. Just as any other reports that is required can be built into the system, that is a commitment from our side that you will be able to do any of the regulatory reporting or statutory reporting that you need to do directly from the system. And that hopefully will then make the parent or the sponsor that needs to pay happy. And then of course there's always a lot of information that must be sent and communicated for funding purposes, for example. And we want with the academia system to make that process as easy as possible from a user experience side for you as an institution. And that, in short, is looking at the different stakeholders on how can we enhance this exercise or this experience that you as an institution have to go through when you start to use the system, and how can we help the end users and the different stakeholders in having a product that they are satisfied to use, but also helps them in the process that they need to follow. Now, this is a short overview of a very big elephant. And I want you to know that the idea is that ask us, and we will go into this in a lot more detail. And we will do this in a more depth and show you the detail of what is behind this overview, because this is definitely not the end of the story or the whole story. It is just the appetite whetter so that you can know what are the type of things that will enhance the experience to the end users. And I think with that, I'm going to open the floor up for questions. Romano, can you just indicate if there was any questions in the chat box so far?
Hi, Andy. No, there isn't any questions that's really directed at us at this point.
Well, then I was either very clear or very unclear, so we can decide on that. Are there any questions that, if you're welcome to unmute your mics, are there any questions from the people that's on the call? Okay, it seems that we are good with that. Then I want to thank everybody that has joined this call, and I want to invite you to come to the next 3 and make sure that you attend the webinars that follows on this full series. This series is also going to be repeated every 2 months. So if there's people that has missed out on this one, we will repeat it in 2 months' time. But please make sure that you come to the next one next week and for the next 3 weeks, so that you have a bit of a bigger picture on what we offer with academia and what can we bring to you in your institution. So this recording and the link to this recording will be circulated to everybody that's on this call, along with a contact detail on where you can contact us in the South African or the UAE office. And then please feel free to contact, and we are ready to have further discussions with you. We really want to thank everybody that's been on the call and want to thank you for joining. And then we hope to see you next week again, this time for the next webinar. Thank you, everybody.